Welcome back to another episode of Four Down Territory. My name is Miles. Alongside me, as always, is Sam. Before we jump into absolutely any NFL action, Sam, there has been breaking news as of today. Philip Rivers has joined the Indianapolis Colts on the practice squad in the big 2025. Can you believe it, Sam?
I can't. I mean, surely, you know, the one thing is that as soon as I saw it, the one thing I meant to do was look up what free agents were still available. And because surely there's someone sat on a sofa on a practice squad or something that's not, 4 years removed from their NFL career now, is it?
Five. That was in 2019, which actually does... Yeah. So this would have been his first year of eligibility for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but that is now void, obviously, because him re-signing. Yeah, so he goes for 5 years again from this point. One, it's just completely astonishing that they've signed a man 5 years off the couch, but I like what you said with, the available free agents, but also, players they could have taken off practice squads and things like that. They've obviously got Anthony Richardson as well, who's obviously dealing with the eye problem, but, that's always an opportunity for him to come back later on in the season and take some snaps.
Yeah, I think it must just be that they were that happy with his performances back when he was playing for the Colts. I didn't really feel like there was any need for him to make a return for his NFL career. I felt like he was very much done at that point. I'm surprised that he's making his return. But, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, it'll be interesting to see what he can do coming back and if he looks any different, having spent a lot of time away from the game. I don't know what he's still like working. If he's still got that JJ Watt workout where he's still training like he's playing, or whether he's spent some time being a family man or what.
He's been a high school coach for a long time, hasn't he? But he's also a grandfather. So would he be the first NFL player to take a snap as a grandfather? I think that would be the best stat of the week ever.
That would be a great stat of the week. And you know what? You're probably not wrong, I have to say.
It would be that would probably be mind blowing. The fact that the generation that we grew up on, especially that being Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Philip Rivers comes into that, and we've kind of said goodbye to all of them. We're looking forward to this new generation, but 5 years later down the line, we are still bringing up Philip Rivers in the discussion of modern day quarterbacks, which is pretty astonishing, really.
Yeah, it's wild, and like at 44 as well, he's instantly one of the older players to have played. It's probably now. I think he's joint second, is he, for oldest NFL quarterbacks to start a game, assuming he starts a game.
Really?
So
that's good.
Yeah, I think it's Brady 45, and then Warren Moon, Vinny Testaverde. I think they were 44.
Gosh.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't believe we're talking about his 18th season now. I mean, even just like looking at the way the media's reacted to it, I think everyone was probably a little bit surprised.
A little bit surprised, but also excited, I think, is the way to go about it. This is quite a monumental thing for the NFL to have that 5 year break to then come back. But it obviously depends on his preparation and how it's been played up to it. Maybe the Colts have been speaking about this for a few weeks, and this could be something that they've been in contact with him. Like, right, come on. We might need to call on you if Daniel Jones goes down and Riley Leonard goes down. You are the next man up for us, so be ready. Work out a month or so beforehand. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I would love him just to take a snap. It would be really cool.
Yeah, it's a shame the Colts obviously weren't very impressed with Ben DiNucci's flag football highlights that went viral.
I saw that. That was awesome. That was really cool.
Maybe that could have brought him back into the NFL, but yeah, never mind.
That would. I did like that. I always like seeing players go undercover. Obviously, Jared Goff did it. Eli obviously did it as Chad Powers, but seeing Ben DiNucci just do it in a flag football league game,
it's quality,
and they're all like, "Have you played before? Like, you're pretty good." He's going through all his progressions. I think he's done a great job there. It's quite funny to watch. Sam, give me your stat of the week for this week, week 14.
Miles, I'm going to get rinsed for mine, but I thought it was too funny not to share, so I had to do it. Shedeur Sanders had himself a good game this week, didn't he, Miles?
He did.
And 300 plus passing yards. The first of his career, obviously only in his
third game.
Starts. Which means he has more career NFL games with 300 plus passing yards than Drake May.
He does. He does indeed.
Yeah. The leading MVP or at least top two MVP hasn't had a 300-yard NFL game yet, which is mental to think about.
To think. I mean, you look at the support cast around Drake is obviously not, it's not world class, but it's obviously better than what Shedeur has in Cleveland and the conditions that Shedeur did it in as well. It was a rain game for the majority of it. It looked like a proper Cleveland Browns ground and pound football game, but they weren't really able to establish the run game and relied on Shedeur to basically chase the game and try and win it back for them. So I think he did a reasonable job. Obviously, it was the battle of the rookies in him and Cam Ward, and Cam Ward was able to fight out the win. So I'm pleasantly surprised with how Shedeur played.
Yeah, and I think what I found really interesting was the smack talk going on back and forth. Like that Titans defense was pulling up the watch. Selly, it kept happening, and even one that did annoy me though. Why is the special teams doing it when they've got nothing to do with what? It does feel like Shedeur was talking his trash, and then they went onto the sideline. They're like, I can't believe this guy's beefing us. They just decided they're all going to have it out for him. But we were discussing it when we were watching it. We were saying I feel like if you're going to get that player, if you're going to sack him or you're going to pick him off or something, then you do the Selly at him. But if you're got absolutely nothing, you're not even on the field at the same time or anything. It felt a bit weird. But my favorite thing to happen. So I was just going to say my favorite thing to happen out of it all was after the touchdown to I think it was Njoku, Shedeur just walking up to Jeffrey Simmons, just going,
"Yeah, watch."
It's just so good.
It's really good. It does remind you. Well, it certainly reminded me of 2014 when Manziel came in, and every single Bengals player when he got sacked, it's just straight right. Do the money, and that's what we're going to do. And it was the same on special teams then. I think even coached on the sideline of Cincinnati were doing it against Johnny Manziel. So, there is a lot of similarities with the situation of Shedeur and Johnny Manziel with how high profile they were coming in, the expectations obviously being before the draft, and Johnny did. Everyone said Johnny slid, but it was due to measurables and obviously, more importantly, off the field issues. And that was the same with Shedeur. So their careers are very similar. Hopefully, Shedeur's is a lot more successful than Johnny's. So that'll be something to look forward to in the future. You've gone 2 for 2, Sam, in weeks of stats that are matching mine. I had 2 luckily this week, and one of them was that Drake May does not have a 300-yard game. I'll go with a bit of history. Well, there was 2 bits of history that was made in last night's game between the Eagles and the Chargers. Obviously, the headline news was that Jalen Hurts became the first player to have 2 turnovers on the same play. I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah. But actually, this one is credit to Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert became the highest QB pressured percentage faced in a single game to come out with the win. He had 69.3% of snaps pressured. In comparison, the highest ever in a game is 69.2 from Sam Howell against Buffalo in 2013.
Sounds about right, yeah.
And second being Bryce Young, 68.6 in a loss to Tampa last season. So with Justin Herbert being 68.3% to get the win as well is extortionate. The top 4, the 4th one is Josh Rosen in a loss to Kansas City in 2018 at 65.9. So there's only 2 players above him and they both lost the game. He's the only one out of the top 4 to win.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it? I mean, he got sacked 7 times, didn't he? He was pressured, he was hit, he was on the floor. The Chargers O-line has been beaten up and bruised and they're struggling bad, but, gutting out the win against the Super Bowl champs is unbelievable.
I think beaten up and bruised is an understatement for the current situation of that offensive line. They are, they have the scraps out there. Let's be real. I think Justin Herbert's done a fantastic job just to even fight out the win there. And there was obviously the news on Twitter of how the Eagles play football. It's what, hand it off to Saquon, deep bomb AJ Brown, punt, and then it's like repeat, rinse and repeat. That's how they play football. It's become a meme online, but it's boring football. And obviously the Chargers were able to capitalize on that and come out with the win, which was very impressive on Monday night. Sam, I wanted to start this episode by talking about the 2025 NFL draft, that being last year's draft, because I thought there needs to be serious conversations about, one, rookies of the year, and also if there was a redraft, who would be the first rookies off the board. So, in regards to rookies of the year, I think your offensive ones, I think the leader is still Tetero McMillan and Emeka Ibuka being alongside him. And then your defensive rookies of the year, both of them being in the second round, that being Carson Schwessinger and then trying to think of his name, also trying to find it, Nick Emanwari from the Seattle Seahawks. So it comes down to, Sam, where do you, or if you were to redraft these guys, where would they go if we were to redo the 2025 NFL draft?
I mean, I would be looking at positional value as a positional comparison. So if we're talking about safeties for Emanwari, Starks was the first safety off the board at 27, wasn't he? So you could probably see Emanwari. I mean, we mocked him in the teens, didn't we? Whether it was like did. some of them we were saying early teens, we were saying late teens, we were saying early 20s. So we were definitely surprised. I remember on draft day we were very surprised to see him drop outside of the first round. And then in terms of the linebacker spot, Jahad Campbell for the Eagles going at 31, which we even thought was late in itself.
Yeah. I was like, oh.
But then, and I think Schwessinger was one. I think in one of the mocks we did, we talked about who our first round misses were, the people who might go in, but we have missing out. And I think I said Schwessinger being one of them, just because there was a couple of teams on that at the end of the first round that could have done with a linebacker. But just because they're defensive rookie of the years, I mean, it's easy to say now that we've seen that they should be in the top 10, stuff like this. But at the end of the day, we've got to remember like draft value, positional value, how teams are going to do it. A linebacker like Schwessinger, as good as he's been this year, and yes, he's on pace for rookie of the year. Does it mean that if we were going to say that Tet and Schwessinger win offensive and defensive rookie of the year, does that mean that they go 1 and 2 overall? It doesn't, does it?
No, it doesn't.
At the end of the day, you've still got your tackles and your edge rushers and the QBs that are always going to go higher up. But
I'm really glad you said that, because I have seen your ESPNs, your CBS Sports do redrafts of the current, the 2025 NFL draft, and you are seeing players like Tetero McMillan go 1. I saw Dylan Gabriel go at 7, and I thought, well,
what?
Yes, I thought that is a crazy take to the New York Jets, and it really made me think that it is incredibly overhyped in the fact that when you do a redraft, you are taking it all with a pinch of salt and how they're performing at the time. But I was very interested to see if we were to redraft, Sam, where we would actually change things of the top 10, maybe even the top 15.
Okay.
If we start off with obviously the Tennessee Titans, I do believe that will remain Cam Ward, and I don't think a player like Jackson Dart is, Jackson Dart's doing a very good job, and even Tyler Shuck this week did a really good job, but I think Cam Ward would remain the number 1 pick there.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a QB, hasn't it? Because when we think about what the Titans were running with, especially obviously at this point in the draft, they didn't know Will Levis would end up having the season injury, but it was obvious they needed a QB on the roster. The draft was the way to go. So then, like you say, it's either Ward or Dart. I like that you've thrown Tyler Shuck in the mix, because I think we'll talk about him soon potentially. But Dart is higher in the Rookie of the Year odds, obviously, for obvious reasons, because Cam Ward struggled to win in games. But it's not Cam Ward's fault they're not winning games. The Titans are just god-awful. He's doing everything he can. We saw him make some awesome plays this week. I think I would stick with Ward. Dart, obviously, like you say, it tempts me. But I think it would stick with Cam Ward 1. It's then when you get to 2 where we have to talk about whether are we saying the trade goes ahead, or are we saying that...
I think we'll say the trade goes ahead, and then Jacksonville obviously get to take whoever they would like at the second position. Now, knowing that Travis Hunter gets injured, I don't think you would obviously take Travis Hunter, would you? I've seen many of the the news sources go out, and this is where Tetero McMillan would go at 2. I think that is still a stretch in regards to what you saw back in April, but now with the success that he's had, and obviously you talked about positional value, wide receiver positional value has skyrocketed in recent years, that Travis Hunter's position this year was mainly a wide receiver. So you would take Tetero McMillan over Travis Hunter.
Yeah, it's really rough that as soon as Travis Hunter seemed like he was about to get going, just off the back of that Wembley game where we really got to see him get involved, get the ball in his hands, and be the playmaker he is, I think that was the last game we saw of him, wasn't it, that Wembley game? So we've really missed out on that full rookie season to know just how impactful he could be on both sides of the ball, which is like why part of me still wants Travis Hunter to go here. But I think you make a good point with Tet. He's obviously statistically, from what we've seen, the most impactful receiver out of this draft. I mean, you could make an argument if we're going to say that Tet could be 2, we could say that Egbuka could be 2, really, couldn't we? It's kind of which one of those 2 you like.
And I go on to say that positional value can change here, and you can go in a completely different direction. And I think that if you're going for an offensive player here in this position, it doesn't have to be wide receiver. Will Campbell makes a great argument for that because he's been phenomenal this year. I think that if you're talking about offensive linemen that don't get the recognition for these awards, and if it wasn't for that injury, Will Campbell has probably been the most successful offensive rookie this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Jags could do with O-line, couldn't they? The O-line's been very inconsistent this year, and adding Will Campbell would definitely have made a big difference.
The next one is obviously Abdul Carter. Does he remain a top 10 pick in this redraft, Sam?
I feel like he does. It's weird because once upon a time he was a top 3 defensive rookie of the year, and it seems like there's been some attitude issues, hasn't there? There's been some almost, I don't want to say off the field stuff because it makes it sound like really negative, like he's been out committing felonies and whatnot, whereas really it's just the worry about the laziness, isn't it? And getting to meetings on time and the stuff within the facility. I don't know if I've taken it 3 though, it has to be said.
I completely agree. I think 3 now is a big stretch, but then it comes down to positional and where do you go position-wise? Because edge rusher kind of hasn't lived up to the hype that last year did in that be 2024.
Well, not being funny, Miles, I think the Giants still end up with Jackson Dart, for being for real.
I completely agree. I know
it's third. When it's 3rd overall, we're talking about the QBs. Now that we know that Dart has developed into quite a nice rookie season, and we're seeing it in the Giants system as well, so there's no reason really not to say Jackson Dart at 3.
I completely agree. I think Jackson Dart goes at 3 to the New York Giants. And we'll say for this scenario that Will Campbell stays at the Patriots at 4. At 5, the Cleveland Browns. Mason Graham has been a great success for them. He doesn't obviously get the limelight that Myles Garrett does or even Carson Schwarzenegger does. But I think in ways this is actually a very solid pick at 5. If you want it the other way around, yes, you could go Carson Schwarzenegger there, but then obviously someone would pick up Mason Graham later down the line. So I kind of like sticking at Mason Graham there. The Raiders with Ashton Jeanty. Thoughts, Samuel?
So this is a really tough one because I'm always, this whole season I've been on the train of it's not Jeanty's fault. I think he's not been great this season. There's been a lot of his stuff that he could have done better. Let's not pretend that he's being completely sold out by his O-line and by his team. But there's so many external factors that have let him down this year. I still believe he's a 6th overall talent. I think if we'd seen him go to a different team, then we might see a much more successful season out of him. But he's been let down. But with that being said, now that we've seen that running back, he hasn't been able to produce there, it's obvious that the Raiders need probably offensive line, right? That's the big one. We could even make the case for Tyler Shuck at QB.
Could do.
Because the Raiders were... The Raiders obviously have been very stinky with Geno Smith. And in hindsight, having them take a first-round quarterback might not even be a bad shout.
I think there's 2 positions that you look at here away from running back. I completely agree with the Tyler Shuck shout. Quarterback is the right pick in the top 10. But there's a guy that was picked straight after him who has been phenomenal this season despite being on a terrible team. Ahmad Membu, tackle out of Missouri, who went to the New York Jets, has played lights out for them all season. He has looked like a seasoned vet for those guys. If he came over to the Vegas Raiders, he would completely change the offensive line. They need that staple at tackle. And I feel like if you were to do a redraft, that is the change that I'd make. It would be Membu going at 6 to the Raiders, who many people actually mocked Membu there. I remember on the night of the draft, obviously we watched it together, Sam, there was discussions of will it be Jeanty, will it be Membu, or will it even be Kelvin Banks going?
Yeah, that was the big discussion, wasn't it? Kelvin Banks suddenly just snuck up the boards in the last 24, 48 hours before the draft, didn't he? And Membu, it felt like he was the pick at 6. Well, it felt like it was a 50-50 between Membu and Genti. But it made sense that, when we've got to remember hindsight's 2020. It made sense at the time that Genti was a good pick at 6, which was why the Jets were so locked into Membu at 7. There was really no one else on the board that would have improved their roster any better.
So with Membu gone, who did the New York Jets take at 7, Sam?
See, this is the thing. I'm just having a little scroll through the rest of that first round, and I'm just thinking about maybe, we can't forget about Egbuka all the way down as the 19th pick. I feel like he's played like a top 10 pick this year.
I completely agree.
His production. He's struggled the last few weeks, but we can't forget how good he was at the start of the season, can we?
Yeah, I think, Egbuka goes in the top 10 of this redraft. It's just, where do you put him? I was trying to hold out for the Carolina Panthers, but let's be realistic. If you're redrafting here, he is by far I'd say he's in the top 5 players in this entire draft. So he's done well to get this far at 7 to the New York Jets. So yes, Emeka Egbuka would go here to the New York Jets. So that leaves the Carolina Panthers in a sticky situation because their position of need at the start of the year was receiver. And they've lost out on the best 2 guys. Where do they go, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to have a look at what other receivers were available at this point. Obviously, we saw Matthew Golden go in the first round, but he hasn't really blossomed the way we hoped he would. I feel like the next best receiver is Jaden Higgins, really, isn't it? Or I guess Luther Burden as well, but I don't feel like they are very warranting of that 8th overall pick.
Exactly, and this is the situation where you now have to completely flip the switch on where do you go. I would absolutely throw in the case for Carson Schwarzenegger or Nick Emenwari, because if you're going on what you know and how good these guys are going to be, either one of those guys walks into that Carolina Panthers defense. So it's just take your pick, and they will both be a success.
Yeah, it's a very good point, especially Emenwari, because the safety position was a weak one for the Panthers, wasn't it, coming into the draft? So Emenwari would be a great shout. The only other one I would think of would be one of the guys, Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland. Obviously, Warren probably over Loveland. Warren's been so consistent and such a safety blanket for Daniel Jones this year. It's hard to believe that he'd go anywhere, all 32 teams, and make that sort of difference.
100%. I think I was kind of holding off till 10, but let's be realistic. You're not going to go very far with Jatavion Sanders being your tight end for the rest of the season. So I'm happy with either way that we go in that direction. What I will say is, though, that 9, not being JJ McCarthy, the 9th pick being the New Orleans Saints. Do you go Shuck or do you go Kelvin Banks?
I mean, they're going to need the QB eventually, aren't they? And this is another one of those hindsight things where we're thinking, could they wait to the second round, or would Shuck go earlier realistically? Because when we look down the list, could the Steelers take Shuck at 21? Could the Vikings? I mean, I know the Vikings probably wouldn't have done, but I don't know. 9 feels like, even Kelvin Banks, it feels like there's even people that could go ahead of Kelvin Banks. If we're going to address the O-line, I feel like, did Kelvin Banks get pushed into guard this season?
I've seen him at left tackle a lot this season.
Okay. Because I was going to say, because if he was getting kicked in at guard, we may as well be taking Tyler Booker at that point, right? Tyler Booker's been phenomenal.
Yeah, Josh Simmons, when he's played, has been really good for the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously missed out a lot of time, but he's been very good. So I'd be happy. I think tackle is the right pick for them, build the trenches up. And that's where you go for the Saints. And then finally, at 10, if you take Warren at 8, I think you stick with Colston Loveland. Let's say you went Emenwari at 8, it's Tyler Warren here at 10.
Yeah. I was trying to think. Even if Emenwari was still available, I feel like one of those 2 defensive rookies would be there at 10, wouldn't they? Because that Bears defense is phenomenal as it is. If they could get one of those guys, they'd be buzzing. But like you said, if they're already gone, probably sticking with Loveland.
Absolutely. That wraps up our little redraft, should we say, Sam? From our predictions at the start of the year, is there a guy for the last 4 weeks that you're going to say is going to win either of these awards as Rookie of the Years? Will there be changes in any of the standings?
I mean, I felt like Emenwari was going to make a late push. I felt like he didn't really get the respect he deserved on account of the fact that I think it's a pretty. I feel like there's no one's really blown us away, have they, in this Rookie of the Year race? it's more about consistency than anything. Schwessinger's been so consistent, which is why he's been at the top of that award. Eamon Warrior's really grown into it. As I think it took him a few weeks to get going. And on the offensive side, Egbuka was leading it for so long, then Dart was leading it for so long, and now Tet. It is just because of the consistency thing. Egbuka started so strong, but he's fallen off a little bit. Dart was fantastic, but the injury and now losing the supporting cast around him hasn't helped him. And it feels like Tet's just been consistent in the background, hasn't he? Which is why he's holding on to that spot at the moment.
If you're going off odds, you've hit a slam dunk with Carsten Schwessinger being completely odds-on favourite. I mean, if you put money on, you're not making absolutely anything. But if you talk about what's happened in the last few weeks, I'd say who's been the better player out of the two is Nick Emmanwori. You look at his game against Atlanta, he was phenomenal, flying all around the field. He is exactly what Mike McDonald, what we said in the draft. It's like we spoke it into existence with what does Carl Hamilton do so well for the Baltimore Ravens. That's what Nick Emmanwori is going to do for the Seattle Seahawks. It's so fun to watch, I think, and he's such a special part of that defense. As for the offense, it has kind of been slapped open. With Tetairoa McMillan obviously being on the bye, it's kind of changed the odds a bit this week. I think Emeka Egbuka had a few slow weeks. He's certainly dropped down, but Jackson Dart's gone up to second. That's quite interesting to think. Jackson Dart coming in and winning it.
Well, yeah, he'll be able to finish out the season now, assuming he stays healthy, and that could help him out big time. Because, like I said, no one really blowing us out the water, so it'd be interesting to see if he can climb back on that one. Before we move on, unless you had anything else to say,
go for it.
Can I just throw one last thing in the mix? How about some random guys who we saw in the day 2, day 3 picks who could potentially see themselves in the first round or in the top maybe 50 picks?
Okay.
So I was just scrolling through the third round. I'm looking at guys like Harold Fannin and Upton Stout of the Niners, who have been fantastic this year, and they've definitely been better than some of the guys drafted for the same position ahead of them.
I think you got a few more. Go for it.
Yeah, just jumping into round 4, literally the top 3 picks. I mean, Bashal Tutin not so much, but DK from the Titans, who's currently leading the league in all-purpose yards. He's been phenomenal. I don't know if he'd be a first rounder, but he's definitely paying big time on that 4th round pick. And then obviously Cam Scatterbo sat down there, so we know he'd be drafted much earlier than a 4th rounder.
I think if we're talking, I'll give you a few offensive. If I give you a few defensive to start, Donovan Izaraku of the Dallas Cowboys has been phenomenal. I think he'd sneak into the first round. Xavier Watts probably wouldn't quite be a first rounder, but if you're going off quality of play, he's played like a first round safety. He's been really good for the Falcons. And I think if you look at defensive depth, it's just been Carsten Schwessinger obviously being the best second round pick. I think offensive, it opens up a bit just because you're going to get some guys that are going to be injured throughout the year and step up. Obviously, Quinton Junkins has been a phenomenal second round pick for the Browns. So has Harold Fanning. Woody Marks has been really good. Carl Monunga has been really good. RJ Harvey's been really good. Shadur Sanders is now coming into the discussion, the 5th round pick. Andre Gadsden's been very good. So there is a lot more depth when it comes into it in the offensive picks. But I think the defensive, if you look at first round picks, they've all been pretty solid.
I think the 2 biggest risers we'd see, or at least Carl Monunga of the Bears would not be a 7th round pick.
Certainly wouldn't.
Flying up there with the way he's been playing. And selected 2 spots later, Tez Johnson, of course. Can't forget him down in the 7th round. He would definitely be probably we're thinking 3rd round, maybe higher, because he's had some really nice games this year.
He has.
So yeah, I think Shadur's a good shout, but we all know the agenda against him. He'd stay in the 5th round.
Right. Let's talk about this playoff push, because even since our last week's episode, Sam, there has been changes, especially in the NFC. The Bears are no longer the number 1 seed. They've actually shot right down to the 7th seed.
And this is what I said about the Niners last week, wasn't it? How the Niners were like 1 game away from 1 and 1 game away from 7, and the Bears just suffered that reality, haven't they?
It was a really tough loss for the Bears. You've gone into Lambeau and you've had a shot to win it at the end, and it's obviously resulted in the way it had with the interception. It really is a gut punch for them. I think they fought so well to come back into the game. Obviously, the favourable thing is they've got this rematch in a few weeks' time, which will change standings there. I was looking at an AI prediction of how the season's going to finish, and the Bears actually, the AI came up with the Bears finishing with going 13-4 and winning the division. I was like, wow, that's coming out and saying something. Obviously, a lot of standings are taken into that. But it smacks it wide open. It really opens up this race for the AFC North. The Packers are obviously the 2 seed, but they've won the same amount of games as the Bears. It's the tie that's carrying them into it, and then the Detroit Lions are only 1 win behind them. So it's slap wide open.
Yeah, I mean, last week I spent some time I basically got up the remaining schedule and picked my winners for every single game, week 14 through to 18 at the time. And just to see where the divisions ended up. And I found that when I got to that week 18, there was about 4 different games where changing the winner changed the entire divisional standings, which I thought was just mental. I think this is how close it's shaping up to be, that we'll get to week 18 and there could be half the division still at play, which is so exciting.
I think that'd be a good way for us to do this, Sam. If you can remember your standings, which obviously was talking.
I can get them back up.
Yeah, if we're talking about the NFC North, give me your NFC North predictions for the rest of the season. Obviously, current standings being Packers in 1, Bears in 2, Lions 3, and the Minnesota Vikings do have a chance. Sam, they do have a chance. They have a less than 1% chance to make the playoffs. They are currently the 11th seed. What can 9 do?
Nothing. No, I can't see the Vikings working their way back into it. I think, there's so many teams that are just on the outside that we're looking at these 2 NFC South teams, the Panthers and Bucks, and one of them's missing out, and which is crazy that they're going to have to win the division to get in. Even like the Cowboys sat where they are, where we thought they might even be able to sneak into the 7 seed. It's like a devastating loss this week to the Lions really hurts their hopes. Even the Lions themselves are sat right on the edge, aren't they?
The playoffs at the moment, exactly.
It's hard to believe it, but there's 8-win teams sat there not able to get in yet. It's crazy. Yeah.
Do you have your standings available?
Yeah.
To go through. Awesome.
So pretty much the way I think, I'm assuming this is the one I settled on because I've just loaded the website again.
Tease us into it, Sam. Start off with the NFC North, our discussion point here. We can go off that and see if I concur with that.
So the way I have it sat here at the moment, I actually have the Bears 13-4 leading the division, and the Packers 12-4-1, which means I've missed a game. Oh no, that is
correct,
right, isn't it? No, of course it's
correct.
But I have to say, this isn't how I finished my prediction because I did have the Packers winning the division. So I think this speaks to, but this is what I mean, because the big swinger is that in week 18 we get the Bears hosting the Lions.
Correct.
And basically, if the Bears win that game, they win the division. If the Lions win that game, the Packers win the division. So obviously in this scenario I've got here. Okay. So that was the big NFC's North swinger. Like I think I had. Hold on, let me just click on the teams. So I have the Bears practically winning out after losing to the Packers, beating the Browns, beating the Packers at home, beating the Niners, and then beating the Lions. If that was the case, that would help them get there. And then with the Packers, I think I had the Packers winning out outside of obviously that game in Soldier Field. So the Packers have the easier schedule by a little bit. But basically, it just all comes down to week 18. I had them splitting their divisional tie between the Bears and Packers, so that it all come down to Detroit and whether Ben Johnson could beat his former team at home.
Gosh.
After such a devastating loss in week 2 as well. Script writers couldn't have done it any better.
I think obviously at that point momentum comes into it massively, and you look at what run the Bears are on at the moment, and especially, like you said, if they go on to win 3 of the last 4 going into that game against the Lions, it will pay a lot for them. I want to know, Sam, what was the prediction you gave for the Packers-Ravens game?
Oh, what do you think, Miles?
I think that
this
would be
was before this weekend's game as well, and I still had the Packers winning.
And it's in Green Bay, that one, is it?
Yeah, there's not hope in hell for us.
So. Okay, so you have the Bears. So you actually follow the trend of AI.
So this is the thing. So right here, I have the Bears winning, but I don't know if you remember our conversation where I had a sneaky free bet to throw on some divisional winners, and I ended up choosing the Packers on that. Wait, did I? I tell you what,
you better double check.
I can't remember. I picked now.
You better double check it.
I better have a quick look. Yeah.
Because I've had the Packers since the start of the season, and this is the thing. I'm now getting nervous.
I think I did say the Packers because I remember you saying that, and I feel like you said that after I'd sent in mine, and I think mine must have been the same as yours. Let's have a quick look. Oh, I did have the Packers.
Okay.
So I think somewhere between finishing my predictions and plugging it into my phone, I decided that the Lions would beat the Bears, which I tell you what, is entirely possible, especially what we saw week 2. We don't know. Obviously, it's been a long season in between those games.
Certainly, it has, and there can be massive changes still coming up. The Bears, one of them still got to go to and play the Browns defense, and that's going to be quite impressive. I think it's the Packers that have got to do it, but that'll be really, really good to watch. No, sorry, it's the Bears. The Packers have already played them and lost, didn't they? So,
right. Yes.
Changes could happen there. I kind of agree with your standings there, Sam. I think it will be the Packers that win it. The Bears come second, and the Lions come third. And obviously the Vikings come fourth, but that's kind of predictable at that point. Let's move on to the NFC South, because there was changes this week. Well, there wasn't changes in the standings, but it certainly slapped it wide open, I think is the way to put it. The Bucs lost to the Tyler Shuck led New Orleans Saints, which puts them at 7-6, and the Panthers are currently 7-6, and they both have to play each other twice.
Yeah, this is the thing. So again, in this model that I did, it came down to week 18. The Panthers and Bucs playing in Tampa Bay to finish the season, and the winner takes the division. But one thing that's interesting to note, which I just thought of, obviously I did this prior to week 14's games, and it's up.
It's updated.
It must have updated, yeah. So it's got the same. Wait, that doesn't make sense though, because it's definitely, I don't know. I could have sworn before it was still. Maybe it's still. Oh no, it does make sense. So before it was still winner takes division, but now, but basically before it had the Panthers clipping on the tiebreaker, but now they will go a game clear, which I think might mean that the Panthers can drop a game against the Bucs. Let me just check that out.
Run that through the sim.
Run the sim.
It might have to be
can
try the first game.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
I think try.
I think I think it will come down to. I think there's just one game in it. That's the thing. They're both sat at 9 and 7. Well, this is the way where I've got it here, coming into that final week. I think the thing is that the Bucs are bound to lose more games at this point. I think. The problem is that they have a friendly schedule. They've got the Falcons, Thursday night, the Panthers twice, and then the Dolphins. So while we feel like they're not playing well, that it's not necessarily that they'll drop games on account of the easier opponents, right?
I think it obviously comes down to the games against each other, but it will also depend on how the Panthers play against the Seattle Seahawks, who they have week 17 before the final game going into Tampa. I think I'll have more eyes on this division than I will the other one, because there is more,
which is wild to say,
exactly,
right?
Because there's more riding on it, because the second place is not making the playoffs here. It's really going to come down to the winner of the division takes all. And if you look at the health of each team, the Panthers are a healthier team going into it, and that builds me more confidence taking the Panthers against tougher teams to win this division. I think the Bucs obviously have, is it the Dolphins as their other one, and then the Falcons. So I think they could win both of them, but they could also go on to lose both of the Panthers games, which could kill them. Yeah,
and it's worth noting as well, I've got the Seahawks actually beating the Panthers. So the Panthers can drop one game as long as they beat the Bucs twice, which obviously means then if they were to lose the Bucs, they could still beat the Seahawks and keep themselves, I believe. Oh no, that would shift the tiebreaker to the Bucs. There you go.
Ooh, okay.
So I mean, we expect the Seahawks to beat the Panthers. It'll be an interesting game. It's in Carolina, and we saw Carolina beat the Rams recently, didn't we? So there's nothing to say that they can't beat the Seahawks. But the way I've got it in my predictions anyway, they're going to need to win both those against the Bucs.
Yeah, they need to. They really do. Let's dive into the NFC West, where it's highly likely that 3 teams from this division will make the playoffs, Sam.
Yep, that's what I've got here. I've got the Seahawks as the 1 seed, the Rams as the 5 seed, and the Niners as the 7 seed. So the Seahawks winning the division, and they do that because they play each other in week 17, I believe, week 16 in Seattle. My thinking being that, what was it, like a 2-point game in week 11? And how many interceptions did Sam Darnold throw?
Too many.
4?
Yeah, 4.
So as long as he's not throwing 4 interceptions, they can get those points they need to win that game. And I think with the home advantage, it's definitely in Seattle's hands. They've just got to win out. They've got they got the Colts this week, which seeing the state of the Colts,
very
definitely
favorable.
And then, like I said, the Rams, that would be the tough one. But then it's Panthers, Niners to finish the season. So not easy by any stretch. But looking at the Rams schedule, they have the Lions this week. So it's going to be a tough one. Then, like I said, that divisional matchup. And then Falcons and Cardinals close the season. So Rams have it a bit easier, especially week 17 and 18. But there's nothing to say that Seattle can't take this division right at the death of it.
I think one of these two teams is going to win out, and it will come down, obviously, to the Seahawks-Rams game in 2 weeks' time. So that'll be a very good watch. I'm sure. I've just seen that it's Thursday night football. That's couldn't have picked a worse game to put on Thursday night. I want to watch this game.
Yeah.
That's pretty annoying, unfortunately. But yeah, I do think the Rams will win this division, personally. I think they have the strongest side. I think the how do I put this? The Seattle Seahawks have a younger roster that hasn't been together for as long, and I just feel like that's going to negatively impact how they perform in these bigger games. Whereas you look at the Rams, they have experience in the right positions. Obviously, that being the offensive line, and also, most importantly, your quarterback has been there and done it all before. So I think that's going to pay dividends for him.
Could argue that Darnold's coming back with the fire after the way the Vikings collapsed last season.
Could do. Need to playoff win.
Right, it'd be really cool. Yeah.
It'd be really cool to see Sam Darnold get a playoff win. I do feel like he's more likely to get that in maybe the wild card game against the Buccaneers if they get the 5th seed. So my eyes would be on that. They wouldn't be though. Well, there would be. Sorry, I had a little mind blank there. Yeah. That makes sense. And then obviously the final one being NFC East for the NFC. I'm guessing you stuck with the Eagles because you don't say.
No, I did. No, this is the thing. When I did the predictions, obviously I was high on the Cowboys. I think I picked the Cowboys to beat the Lions this week. I was that excited about them. Obviously didn't come to be, and now I'm thinking, they've got the Vikings, Chargers, Commanders, Giants. Even with them winning out, they were still going to be a game short, the Eagles. So, and I think that was with me saying that the Eagles were going to lose a few of their last game. Oh no, because that's right, because the Eagles have a lovely run in. Despite their struggles, they've got to play the Raiders, Commanders, Bills, which will be tough, but then Commanders again. So realistically, Eagles should be able to get themselves into the playoffs, no problem at all. Despite, they've already got the lead, but even if they had to play their way in, they would have been fine anyway, I think.
I'm wondering what is the Eagles' schedule going into the play. So it's Raiders, Commanders, Bills, Commanders. That's if they don't get in, it's quite impressive.
Yeah, they'll win those games.
Yeah, that'll be a cakewalk for them. AFC, Sam. I'm interested to see this. There's one obviously division that I'm quite interested in. It is your division, Sam, that being the AFC North. Let's start off there, and I'm sure listeners are interested as well to see who's winning it.
Well, this is the thing, Miles. So when I did my predictions, I had the Ravens winning the division with a 9-8 record. The interesting note on that being the win at home against the Steelers. That didn't come to be. So now it's flipped, and the Steelers are getting into the playoffs 9-8 because we're not beating the Patriots, we're not beating the Packers. I had that already. I had us beating the Bengals this week, but even that's it's tough. We need the Steelers to lose games. We look at the Steelers' schedule. They've only got the Dolphins this week. They've still got to play the Browns once. It's the Lions in week 16. That would be the one where the Steelers
I'd like to raise something here. That is the Miami Dolphins are still in a shout for a playoff spot.
Are they actually?
And I've seen a lot of talk on Twitter that they are, their fans are really excited with the way they're playing. And they're sat at 6-7. They could win out and make a wild card spot. So I want to pull up the schedule really quickly.
I mean, it's Steelers, Bengals, Buccaneers, and then Patriots to end the season. But it could be a Patriots with the backups in.
That's what I'm thinking. If the which is highly likely, the number one seed at that point could already be done and dusted. The Broncos have a much tougher schedule compared to the Patriots, or some Ravens, the Patriots. So it could come down to they play backups in that situation, which would give the Dolphins a chance to get in. If you look at the other three games, the Dolphins have a great chance of winning those three games and making the playoffs. Obviously, the tough thing is that they go away straight away, and that being in Pittsburgh. But if you go to Pittsburgh and get that win, you've slapped that door wide open. The current chance is less than 1%, right? But I think if you get the win against the Steelers, you open that door to already 10%, and then you go play the Bengals. That brings it to 50%. You go beat the Bucks, and you could be beating the Bucks at 99% because the Patriots could have it all wrapped up before you even play them.
Yeah, that's the interesting note as well, isn't it? I mean, the way I see it, the 7 seed's going to need 9 wins. So the Dolphins are going to have to pretty much win out, I think, at this point, right? If they're at 6, they're at 6 wins at the moment, so they can drop one game.
Yeah, they can drop one, but I don't know with the AFC, because if you look at the current standings, the Texans are obviously on 8-5. If they were to drop one game, they'd need everyone to lose out. Then the likelihood of that happening, well, the Texans lose out, the Colts lose out, and then obviously the Ravens, Chiefs, and themselves picking up a few games. I don't see that happening. They have to go to win out to get this. I think 10 wins is your. I feel like now, if you would say at the start of the season, 10 wins is always it's like in football, the 40 points is your safety of relegation.
Yeah.
10 wins is your playoff mark. If you get to 10 wins, you're in the playoffs. Obviously for the NFC, that might not happen. You might need 11 to get in. So I think the Dolphins will do very well, especially with the slander that we gave at the start of the year. I think that's quite, that says a lot of how well they've turned this season around.
Yeah, they absolutely have. They were very poor at the start of the year. They're looking very poor coming into the year, but yeah, they've done a nice job turning around in this, sort of third quarter of the season. It's worth noting the AFC South, since you mentioned them a couple of times there. So I did have the Texans winning out, and that being enough to take them to that divisional title. I think, if anything, we've seen it. We saw it get proved against Kansas City. I think they played awesome in that game, and we can see how that defense is going to be able to just sort of carry games for them. You look at the Texans' remaining schedule, the Cardinals and the Raiders, 2 home games as well coming up. So 2 very favorable games to get 2 more on the bounce. It's the Chargers in Week 17, which will be tough. But then in Week 18, the Colts. And as we've seen, the Colts, I mean, they were already going in a bit of a downward spiral. And that downward spiral has become a downward drop, hasn't it? Because it's going to change their QB situation completely. Phillip Rivers, man, I mean, you've got to show something here to rescue this Colts team. And I don't believe he can do it. I'd like to see it happen. I'd be very impressed to see it happen. But the Texans winning out would take them to being a 12-win team, 12-5, which when you think they started 0-3. Can't complain.
So you think at 12-5, the Jags will lose one of their games?
So I had the Jags at 11-6 here.
Okay, they lose 2,
losing to the Broncos. But here I've got them losing to the Colts, which isn't going to happen now.
If you switch that, what happens?
Texans staying on top.
Wow,
Same record, but both 5-1 in the division. I'm assuming Texans winning the tiebreaker. Because they split it.
They split it, so it obviously comes down to
elsewhere.
Who they've played, maybe results against the Broncos. So if they
here you go. I've got the Jags losing to the Broncos.
Yeah, going through it. Steelers, they both haven't played. Bills, Texans beat the Bills.
Yeah,
so that's where it would go to. Of the Texans have beaten a better team compared to the Jags. That's why they have the playoff nod. I think both teams will get in the playoffs. It's just obviously standing wise and who gets the home game going for the future. I think the Colts, obviously, it's too little too late now in regards to health wise. Do you know who's starting this week for the Colts, Sam?
Is it? What? It's not Riley Leonard.
It's
then
Brett Rippin starting this week. Riley Leonard has a knee injury, which is why they've re-signed Philip Rivers. So Brett Rippin gets another chance of being an NFL starter.
Wow,
that'd be interesting to see how he performs.
Rippin.
I've seen him get a win for my team before. I think it was like Thursday Night Football against the Jets. We were 0-3 at the time. He got the win. I think that might have been the first year we did the podcast.
Was it? Yeah.
Oh, it was either that or the year before. But yeah, I think he threw for like 300 yards. He played really well. That was in the days of I was almost going to say Jamal Charles. Trying to think of Melvin Gordon at running back.
God, there we go. Yeah, of course. I feel like it's worth noting. I did have the Colts at 9-8 in the 7 seed, but obviously that Jags game has just changed it, dropping to 8 and 9 and out of the playoffs.
So they lose all 4.
The Chargers back in.
Okay.
And yeah, let me just check on the Colts schedule. I mean, even looking at the Colts schedule here, so I already had them losing to the Seahawks and the Niners and the Texans. So yeah, they would lose out entirely for the rest of the season. So that hot start where they were
best team in the league,
7-1.
Everyone said they were the best,
and they were for a time, weren't they? But how times change in the NFL. Yeah.
I'd be interested to see, and there's obviously it's been very topical on Twitter of the Chiefs' path to the playoffs. Do you have them missing out entirely, Sam?
I have them missing out. Yeah, I mean they're tied with the Chargers at 9-8. I think them two are the only 9-8 teams looking for that wild card spot. Obviously, the Steelers getting a divisional win. I had the Chiefs losing to the Texans, which did I? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Chiefs lost to the Texans. I had them beating the Chargers this week, but
things could change.
That's the kind of thing we need to reanalyze. Week 16 beating the Titans. Week 17 they played the Broncos, obviously, and I had the Broncos winning that, and then the Raiders in Week 18. So that's the thing with the Chiefs. 16 and 18 are winnable games. It's the 2 divisional games in 15 and 17 against direct playoff rivals. That will make a big difference to them, to their playoff hopes. I do feel like, as crazy as it is to say, they're outside looking in. They're 11% chance at the moment.
That's crazy. If you were to tell me at the start of the season we'd be sat after week 14 that the Chiefs have an 11% chance to make the playoffs, I thought you'd be lying to me. I really would. You just felt like that dynasty was going to last forever. It obviously has come crumbling down, is what it feels like. There's been, I mean, it's funny to watch like Nick Wright on Fox Sports and his love for the Chiefs he expresses so vocally, but he is in agony every episode now with what's going on with the Chiefs, and especially how they lost this week against the Texans. So yeah, it's a tough watch at the moment for them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not tough watching Nick Wright get.
It's not because he's been wrong about a lot of things this season.
Yeah, Nick wrong indeed.
Nick wrong. So who are your 3 wildcard teams for the AFC?
So it'd be the Jags at the 5 seed, the Bills at the 6 seed, and the Chargers at the 7 seed. Obviously, this is based off those predictions last week. So I tell you what, after we've recorded this episode, I could go back and do it all again and just see if anything's changed.
Does that mean you have your Baltimore Ravens missing out on the playoffs?
I do, apparently.
Wow.
I mean, obviously, like I said, I didn't before, but the game drop to the Steelers is the one that's going to be the kicker.
That's going to be the headline of this episode. Sam thinks Ravens miss playoffs.
Well, the dropping the game to the Steelers is the one that's gonna kill us, because even if we can go into Pittsburgh at week 18, it might be too little too late by that point.
True.
We're gonna have to beat one of the Patriots or Packers, and it's hard.
That's a big
yeah. Well, because that's the thing, because even if we can beat the Bengals and Steelers in week 15 and week 18, like I said here, I've got the Steelers. It really depends what the Steelers do. If the Dolphins can go into town and beat the Steelers this week, they're going to do the Ravens a massive favor, and it would be kind of poetic after all the slander I've sent Miami's way, them saving my team's playoff hopes. Could you imagine?
That'd be incredible.
Or even the Browns having an upset in week 17. But it's hard to believe, the Ravens have like a top 3, top 5 hardest schedule for the remaining of the season, whereas the Steelers are in that top 10 easiest bracket. I don't know how it works every year. It feels like every year we're saying the Ravens have a hard schedule. But this is the way it is. You've got to win your games when you have when you have them in your hands, and it's not happened this year. I tell you what, Miles, one thing that I thought we would discuss would be the within the Ravens game would be the touchdown, not touchdown.
Let's talk about it. We've got 5 minutes. Let's talk about this. What is a catch?
Right. Okay. So I've thought about this a lot because obviously I knew we were going to talk about it, and I thought about how I could compose what I wanted to say and how because I didn't want to just come on and start screaming touchdown. Ah, God, biased Ravens fan. So I'll take you through my thought process, Miles. As it happened live, I said incomplete. I thought as it happened, watching the actual play, I said feels incomplete. As they show the replays, and I heard Tony Romo go, "Oh, I don't know, Jim. I think it's a touchdown." I was like, "Okay, I can see where he's coming from," and I trust Tony Romo. I feel like when him and Jim Nance are in the booth, both saying it's a touchdown, I feel like that's fair. So I was kind of leaning touchdown, but then the whole 3 elements of a catch. The more they talked about it, the more I was like, they're right. He didn't do that final football move, which is with the third step being or the tucking into the body or blah blah blah. So in my head, I was like, oh well, I guess it's not a catch then. Then I started to get more videos on my feed, Miles, and I was watching Stephen A of all people talking about it, and I can't remember who it was who was on this show. But they made 2 very good points. I'm annoyed because I was supposed to re-watch it before we started recording, so I could remind myself. But the interesting point that that Stephen A made was the third step element of the catch when you're in the end zone. The end zone isn't in the field of play, so you don't need to make the ball move in the field of play.
Yeah.
And then the other point that the other guy made was did you see the Aaron Rodgers catch that in the play where he threw it and it got battered and he caught it himself and then it got ripped out for a fumble and then it was overturned?
Yeah.
He barely had possession of that. He definitely didn't make the ball move because he didn't
make a football move. No, exactly.
He was holding on for dear life. I guess the difference with that would be saying that his knee was down, and I'm okay with that because it's the body part being down is one of the contingent factors of the catch. But God, yeah, I was okay with it. I was more just like, oh, these things are going to get called, and you're going to get them go against you. You're going to get them go your way. But after watching Stephen A, and I wish I remembered his name now, but the other guy talking about it, suddenly I was a bit like, yeah, I feel like we were robbed a little bit.
Let me put my perspective on it.
Go on.
So I think that a catch is, I completely agree with the 3 elements of a catch. A catch is possession in the hands, 2 steps, and a football move. I think that goes from the 0-yard line all the way to the other end zone. But it's at the start of the end zone. When you are in the end zone, you do not need to make a football move to show that you have possession. It's catch 2 steps or catch said body part like knee, like hip, like elbow, that all equate to 2 steps. Obviously, in that scenario, Isaiah Likely does make a catch. He does get 2 feet in, and he almost gets a third in. Before tucking the ball, because you can see he clearly has a grasp over the football. He has, if he had like 2 fingers around it, if he was like that on a football, I'd be okay. You can argue that he doesn't have full control of it, but if he has the entire ball well within 2 hands for a decent amount of time, that's a catch for me. I feel like you need to take into consideration live speed, and we are seeing that more and more in sports that you can't review everything in slow motion because it's not going to look the same as it does in real life. I think in real life, I was like, well, that's clearly a catch because from what I saw, it looked like he made 3 steps, and obviously going back on it, he does only make 2. In my eyes, it's a catch. It goes back to the Jesse. Is it Jesse James?
Jesse James.
So let's go to Jesse James' example. He takes a catch. He actually goes 2 feet, knee, leans, and as he leans over, he fumbles the ball. Jesse James's was a catch all day long. Let's go to Des Bryant in 2014. Des Bryant in 2014 is catch, 2-step, lean. These are all examples of where the catch rule needs to change. We can go back to Calvin Johnson in, I think, 2009 when he made the catch in the end zone against the Bears. He did the same. I think if you go back and watch the Calvin Johnson one and compare it to the Isaiah Likely one, that's the most identical because he has the ball over the DB's head, catches it 2 steps, and then the DB hits it out of his hands. To me, Calvin Johnson caught that ball. And it's like, if we're going off that example, Isaiah Likely caught the football as well. To me, it's a touchdown.
I think the other thing is as well that when you think what it takes to score a touchdown in the NFL, you can literally fling yourself out of bounds, and as long as you touch that orange pylon by the centimetre of football, you've scored a touchdown.
By a lace of the football, it's in.
And or if you have the tippiest of tippy toes going while you're going out of bounds, we think of like Santonio Holmes in the Super Bowl, it's that kind of thing where you're going out of bounds and you can catch it as long as those 2 feet are down. There's the whole surviving the ground and maintaining the control out of bounds. But I feel like if Likely had done that going out of bounds, it almost feels like if he'd taken like if he had taken those 2 steps and then it got the 3rd step and the 3rd step went out of bounds and then it was punched, they'd be fine. But it's just that it was within the field of play, even though it's not in the field of play. It's an end zone. It's different. I don't know.
You know, do you remember the Martavis Bryant touchdown where he like caught it underneath his leg and rolls out of bounds? I think it was against the Bengals. Of
course, yes.
Do you think that, like, if that was in play and he dropped it on like his forward roll, would that be a touchdown? To me, it is. You know, he maintained it. He rolls. His whole back touches the ground, and obviously by the time he's up, before he's up, he drops the ball. They gave that a touchdown way back when. Why is it not a touchdown now?
It's the whole body part down thing, isn't it? I think if Likely had been able to get a knee down and then had, like, if he'd been sliding and had it punched, but he'd been able to get a knee down, if his second, instead of a second step, it was like a 1 step and a knee, would have been fine. But I think for whatever reason, but then you could call into question that if 2 feet is supposed to equal 1 knee or 1 body part, then why doesn't it? I don't know. The thing is that all I've found is that all I've done is gone in circles trying to work out what's a catch and whether it should have counted or not. I'm over it now.
Yeah, I think the NFL still has a catch problem. Put it that way. That's my bottom line from it. Right, Sam. Let's go through our Week 15 predictions for the 2025 season. Starting off Thursday Night Football at Raymond James Stadium, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take on the Atlanta Falcons. Believe it's still King Kirko at quarterback for the Falcons.
Yes, I think it should be
for the rest of the season.
Bucks need this, don't they? But you know, the Falcons up until a point weren't looking too terrible against Seattle. They were keeping it close in the first quarter at least, but or even the first half. But it was that second half flurry from Seattle that ended it. I will go with the Bucks. The Falcons just seem like an almost team where they almost look good, but then they still get beat.
I think almost team is bang on. I think the Falcons have put up a really good fight, but they just won't have enough firepower to get over the line. I think the Bucks will win this. Bears versus the Browns in Soldier Field. I'm taking the Bears in this one.
The Bears. Absolutely. It's apparently going to be a cold one.
It will be a cold one, yes, absolutely. -15 there. That's pretty crazy. Bengals Ravens in Cincinnati. Give me. I want the playoffs hopes to be alive. I think you'll beat them. Well, they are hot. Despite losing against the Buffalo Bills, they are hot. No, I think you'll lose. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel defeated, Miles, because I hate picking against myself. But the sensible NFL fan in me is saying that Cincinnati are winning this one. But I feel like you said with the playoffs, playoff hopes, got to keep them alive. I feel like I've got to die on the hill, don't I?
Yeah.
At least this week anyway, because there's no way of picking against. I'm not picking us next week against the Patriots or the week after against the Packers. So I'll pick Ravens for now anyway. While I still can.
I think that's a smart decision, Sam. Let's go to Chargers Chiefs. Like you said, massive game here, Sam. Where are you taking this one?
I'm going to take the Chargers. They really impressed me against the Eagles, especially that defense. And Amari and Hampton being back is. They haven't. There's not been enough of a talk about it. This guy was absolutely balling out before he got injured, and having him come back, even though he didn't have a huge impact on this week's game, he still made the plays where necessary, and he had a big run in overtime to set them up with good field position. And I feel like he's going to get more involved as the season goes down, and him being back is really going to improve this Chargers team.
Yeah, I completely agree. Chargers win that one. Patriots versus the Bills. This is the one that could make this division a bit tasty. It is in Foxborough. I want this to be slapped open a bit. I think the Bills will come with a bit of vengeance. And they want to still win this division to have the AFC go through Buffalo. Give me the Bills.
I like it. I think, like you say, the Bills win this game. They're only one game behind, and suddenly Patriots aren't looking so solid at the top of the AFC. But I'm going to go different. I'll go New England.
I want to quickly see the odds for this game, or should I say the spread?
I think they're in the Bills' favour. I think it's 1.5.
It is, yeah, 1.5 going into this. Yeah. That's quite close. Commanders Giants, good game here. I'm going to take the Giants. I think Jackson Dart's got this.
Yeah, this is the battle of the two teams that have been thugging it out all year and not winning games, isn't it?
Yeah.
Part of me wants to say Commanders on account of a Giants throwing it and getting a higher draft pick, but we're going to say that for the spirit of the game, the Giants play full strength and they're going to win this game.
Raiders Eagles next, Sam. Eagles win, or do they completely capitulate against the Raiders?
They're on a proper skid right now, aren't they? But there's surely three straight losses.
A Penny Kickett, a Kenny Pickett led Raiders. Obviously, Geno Smith went out of the game against the Broncos, so that opens the door. No, I'm still taking the Eagles.
A complete side grade at QB.
Yeah. Jags Jets. Give me the Jags to win that.
Yeah, got to be the Jags.
Texans, Cardinals, give me the Texans. I'm sure you're going to say.
Texans are winning out. Yeah.
I've just seen the Jags are 12.5-point favourites. I don't think they'll cover that, but hey ho. Packers, Broncos. Interesting.
Broncos. I think I went with.
You're trying to go off your past.
I went
schedule.
with. I'm trying to remember. I think. Come on, let's have a look, shall we? Quick. So before I said Packers, and I think that's what I'm going to stick with. The Packers. This is two unconvincing teams almost, but they've been very up and down, haven't they? They've convinced us some weeks, they've been unconvincing the next week. So this is basically who's going to be more convincing this week. Packers coming into town. I'm going to go with them.
I'm not picking against the Broncos for the rest of the season.
Yeah, fair enough.
Game of the week: Rams-Lions. Here we go, Sam. Who we take?
This will be great. Is this have the Rams and Lions played since that playoff game where Stafford had to return to Detroit? I can't remember.
Probably.
I feel like they have.
Yeah, probably. I'm going to take the Lions.
I don't think it's been in LA though, so I'm going to go with the Rams.
You're going Rams. I think Dome Goff is back. Give me the Lions to win. Panthers Saints. Both going Panthers?
Yes. Yeah, Panthers out of the bye week.
Niners Titans, give me the Niners.
Yep, speaking of out of the bye week.
Seahawks Colts. If this was 2 weeks ago, it'd be really good, but I'm taking the Seahawks now, and I'm sure you will too. Vikings versus the Cowboys in Texas A&M. It's at AT&T Stadium. Sorry, I said Texas A&M.
Dallas Cowboys get back on track.
Dallas Cowboys. And then it comes down to the Dolphins versus the Steelers. Can anything be done to mix up this playoff push for the AFC teams? Sam is on.
Please.
Sam begging.
Please, Miami. I'll be nice the rest of the season, I promise. I'll tell you what, maybe this is the new stipulation. Remember how I said if the Dolphins beat the Ravens, I'll wear a Dolphins jersey? Maybe I need to bring it back.
This might be it. This really might be it. Oh yeah, I'm going to take. I'm going to take the Dolphins here. I really am.
You know what? So am I. I just want to back him.
And I'm going to double down and take Malik Washington as my random touchdown scorer this week.
I was thinking Jalen Wright, but it's not really random after that performance he had this week. We didn't touch on that, did we? He was flying, wasn't he, with A-Chan out. I am going to go with, oh no, that's just a bad pick. So I was going to say, do you know who got involved this week?
Another offensive lineman, is it, Sam?
No, I was going to say, who got involved this week finally? Jack Besh looked like he was getting involved this week for the Raiders,
started for them this week, which was quite good.
I just don't know if I can see them getting a touchdown against the Eagles.
I did find it quite funny that they're the only team, well, they were the only team that didn't have a 25-year-old score for them until this week, which was pretty impressive, that being the Raiders.
Wow. So. I'm going to go with Mike Gesicki for the Bengals.
Mike Gesicki scored last week. Griddied.
Did he?
He did. Would he
griddied? Of course he did.
Of course he griddied.
Gesicki griddy, I forget. I forget when he used to do it at the Pats.
I like it though. I like it. I don't mind seeing a Gesicki griddy. That'd be fun.
Absolutely. As long as it's not this week.
Absolutely. Right, that wraps up this week's episode of 4 Down Territory. Make sure you're commenting and let us know if you like this format that we're doing currently. Follow us on all of our socials, FDT_podcast, and we'll see you all in the next one.